Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Marian White, and with me is my co-host for Larchmont Today for the last 80 or 100 years, I think,
Yes.
Ken Bialo.
Since prehistory. And I want to thank you, Marian, for that.
For all that prehistory.
Yep, those tyrannosaurs never got in the way, did they?
Well, we actually met when we both were running for the Village of Larchmont board and won, which is nice.
In what year?
91.
Yeah, 1991.
And then you went on to become mayor in the Village of Larchmont. And
you went on to become the chair of the now
defunct.
Apparently unlamented Republican Party.
Well, you know, you never know. That phoenix might rise again. Who knows? You said you had some really good news about some local ball players.
I do. There was an article in one of the online, I don't know what you would call it. It's not a news service. It's a blurby thing that Kate receives. And it announced that 2 players from Mamaroneck High School and who are graduates of the Larchmont Mamaroneck Little League, which is very dear to my heart.
Yes.
On account of I spent, 25 years coaching, commissionering, membering of the board, founding the girls' softball division, and making it grow, actually. So I spent a long time there, and I'm very proud of any kids who come out of there who manage to succeed in the baseball world. And here are 2 boys who were selected in the Major League Draft last week. One by the Houston Astros,
Wow.
which is a pretty good team and a pretty good system, named Luis Guerrero, who played Little League from T-ball through the majors and then traveled 2005 to 2011. How cool is that? And a second young man, Kumar Nambiar, who was in fact a pitcher in the state champion Mamaroneck team, and he was a member of the Little League teams from 2005 to 2010 from the Gold Division through the majors as well as also in the travel division, and he was selected by the Oakland A's. So this is a distinguished beginning here at the Larchmont Mamaroneck
Well,
Little
I
League.
guess Mamaroneck High School is very good at turning out great ball players.
Yeah.
It would seem.
Well, it has a great coaching staff and great coaches and great kids, and the baseball program is at the high school is supported by and fed into by the Little League. I mean, that's, we started, when I first started with Darren, which was in 79, or maybe it was 80, we started with the 8-year-old T-ball. And then you went to the Continental League, which was where the first year where the kids actually pitched, and it was just, you wanted to...
Took a long time each game.
Continental, no, it wasn't Continental, it was the 10-year-olds. I forgot what the 9-year-old team was, but that's where the kids pitched, and that was, walks and errors and everything. And then by the time they were 10, they could play. I think my team was like 17-1.
Wow.
What a team. We drafted the team in the Flint Park Playhouse. I remember sitting there and saying to Glenn Louie, who was then my co-coach, saying, we actually know these kids because we've been with them for 2 years.
Yes.
As 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds, but a lot of the people in the room had no idea who the kids were. So we just judiciously, quietly selected A, B, C, D, phenomenal team. And then after the 10-year-old at the Continental League, then they went to the majors, 11 and 12. And that's what the system was like back in those days. And that was shortly after the merger of the Mamaronecks and the Larchmonts into Larchmont Mamaroneck Little League.
Okay.
And it was quite a deal. And then over the years, now they start the kids earlier. I think Kelsey started when she was 5.
Really?
In T-ball. Yeah, boys and girls. Maybe it was kickball at 5. And then
Are you in first grade then?
I can't remember.
I think you're kindergarten,
Matthew,
aren't you?
I remember one day, Matthew in the field in Ryeneck down when you go up the hill on Mamaroneck Avenue and you make the right turn and go all the way down to that field, I've forgotten the name. One day he had 4 Grand Slam home runs. He was the biggest kid. And he just, wherever he hit the ball, he just run around the bases. Hysterical. That was T-ball, I think. But they started the kids younger. They came to start the kids younger and allowed the younger kids to go into the majors if they were good enough. You couldn't do that in when I was on the board and part of this whole thing. The 10-year-old league was for 10-year-olds.
Okay.
That was it, for 10-year-olds. And then the 11s and 12s played in the majors. But it was great fun. But just, I mean, if you think about how far that whole process has come and
So
how
what
much,
would they have done? Were they drafted? They're not drafted out of high school. Would they have gone to college?
one of them, Kumar went to Yale.
Oh, okay.
So he spent some time there. And I imagine that, it doesn't say here where Luis Guerrero
So
was.
people do go to college, and then it's out of college that they
They
get
get drafted and go into the minors and then spend, I don't know, it depends whether you're a pitcher or a hitter, it depends.
Right.
But you spend a couple of years in the minors and you get, on draft day, let's say you're coming out of college and you declare yourself eligible for the draft, then you get selected by whoever decides that they want you with whatever round pick they decide they
Right.
want you with. You may not be a first round pick, you may not be a 15th round pick, you may be a 30th round pick.
Right.
And then they start you off somewhere in the sort of below the A division, and then there's A's and AA, and then AAA is this last step before the majors.
Wow. So
But
that's
that's
very
It
exciting.
really is.
Wow.
It's really great.
Well,
So
congratulations.
congratulations to you guys.
I'm sorry my daughter Nicole didn't quite live up to these expectations under you as her coach.
Well, I'm sorry that I wasn't a good enough coach to get that glove down. She needed to have the glove down.
She probably had other things on her mind at the moment, It's sort of hard to
That was in the girls'
to
division.
deal with girls.
Yes. Well, Carolyn played, as an 8-year-old, she played T-ball with the boys, baseball. And she came to me, it's my daughter, right? You know Carolyn.
Right.
And she came to me and she said, I love baseball, but I just can't stand playing with the boys. They're just making fun of me, blah, 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 blah. So it was Penny Wolfson, I think, had in the prior year sort of set up an informal softball game for girls down at the harbor.
Oh, you mean because there wasn't any
There wasn't no
girls,
softball
so the only way she could play was to play with the boys.
I was a member of the board at that time.
Okay.
And I said, I think it was Jerry Froman was the president. I think that's right. I can't remember, or it might have been Joe Messina. I said, how about if and I looked up the rules, and it turns out that the Little League of America, or whatever that's called, actually has a set of rules and a protocol for girls softball. And this was back in the mid-'80s. And I said, hey, how about if can we start, we get some kids out there and we'll call it Larchmont Mamaroneck Little League Girls Softball, which we did. And we had 40 girls the first year, which I think was 4 teams of 10. And the pitcher.
Were they different ages?
No, they were all pretty young.
Okay.
So
they could play each other.
There might have been 8, 9, or 9, 10, or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And then we recruited a bartender, a woman bartender from over here somewhere down near the harbor, and she volunteered to pitch and be the ump. And I can't remember her name. I wish I could, because I would like to say thank you. And I'm sure I did at the time, but I'd like to do it now. Anyway, she pitched, and the girls would hit the ball, and then you'd say, run to first, and where's first? Okay. I didn't realize what we were starting with. So we started with the girls. We took them down to Flint Park, and we set up a home plate. And there's first over here, first run there. You can run past it. What? When? You don't have to stop there? No, you don't have to stop there. And then second and third. And by the time, what was it, I quit being part of this whole thing in 92 or 93. And Sid Unger and I were doing it for a while, and then I can't remember who got hold of it. Anyway, there were 350 girls.
Whoa, what a success.
In the space of 10 years.
That's awesome.
And it became the feeder for the girls softball team at Mamaroneck High School. So that was pretty cool too.
Well, and one of the things that my husband really loves watching on TV is college women's softball.
Yeah.
That's just so great.
Well, you know, they pitch from 45 feet, and those things are coming in at 70 miles an hour.
You're kidding.
I'm not.
No, I did not know that.
And they can pitch curveballs, they can pitch rising fastballs, they can pitch falling fastballs, they can do changeups. Those kids can play. They can really play. We don't have a whole slew of those here, but when you watch the girls, the women's softball stuff in NCAA, it's just frightening. It's frightening.
Well, it's always fun when it's towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
So now we'll be watching. It'll
Yes.
be on TV.
Yeah, the World
Oh,
Series,
wonderful.
Anyway, congratulations to you fellows
Yes.
on your selection in the Major League Draft, and congratulations to Larchmont and Marian Little League for at least, since I've been about 40-something years of
Well,
sending
thank
kids,
you
sending kids
for
to
all
play
of that.
ball. Luis Guerrero and Kumar Nambiar.
So I'm a little puzzled by New York. And I thought maybe you could help me out.
City?
Well, state, I think, talking about Governor Cuomo.
Ugh, idiot.
Well, so a while ago, he got the legislature to give him a pay raise. And then a poll came out saying that most citizens or voters are against it. And then now he's announced that he's running for a fourth term. And he does have a 52% favorability rating.
Whatever that means.
Right. But in a poll, 84% said he should definitely not run again. So there's something here that isn't quite hanging.
Well, I'll give you my take on him,
Okay.
which you already know. I think that he's sort of a pitiful character,
Oh, okay.
but a master dictator. So there are a lot of pitiful characters who run around and run countries. How about that? What's the guy's name in Venezuela? Maduro. Ugh, I mean, just awful, disgusting characters. But this guy, my view is, he is sitting around and waiting. He has said he supports Joe Biden, and I don't think there's a molecule in his body that supports Joe Biden. What he is waiting for is for the 22 or 27 or
23
40,
now.
48, however many Democrat candidates to tear each other's hearts out
Right.
and to wind up in a convention which is deadlocked.
Oh, so this will happen at the
Can't
convention.
nominate a candidate, and
Okay.
I think that he is going to be sitting there smoking a cigar in the back room, and he is going to be letting the word out that people can come to him and ask him to run. He has established himself as a left-wing lunatic, first magnitude left-wing lunatic. Data doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is, the religion of left-wingness. and we can talk about some of these. The guy's a complete yo-yo. But he's got the credentials that will allow him to say, well, he's clearly a left-winger,
Okay.
right? But
Because
he's
of
not going
things
to be
he's done in
involved
New York.
in the fighting amongst these
Right.
55 people.
Well, that was sort of smart of him to not get
I
involved in the
told
fighting.
you, he's a master manipulator.
Okay.
He really is
Well,
a master
but
manipulator.
that's also smart.
Yeah. When I say he's an idiot, I mean he runs a state that is not data-driven. And his announcements and pronouncements, other crap is just not data-driven. Has no idea what the data is. You remember when he declared there would be no fracking? This is like the puppeteers on Park Avenue were pulling the strings. Say no fracking. No fracking. The science behind that was he had asked the state health commission. I still have the quote. I didn't bring it with me tonight because I didn't know we were going to say this, talk about this. But the science behind this was he asked the state health commissioner to give an opinion. And the state health commission, this is his opinion. I wouldn't let my kids play on a playground near a fracking site. And then Governor Cuomo, this is his second term, I think. He was in his second term. Put his arm around him and he said, and this is a quote in the newspaper, "That's good enough for me."
Where
Now,
no one has any facts.
I want you to think about this. The southern tier of New York State has been disintegrating for 40 or 50 years. In fact, the northern tier, just the distance between Ontario or Lake Ontario and the province of Ontario and Pennsylvania, it's called the southern tier, it has been disintegrating. Just what's up there are state university colleges, some actual state university divisions, state university colleges and prisons. And around Corning, there is the facilities, the manufacturing facilities for the glass that goes into cell phones and other high-tech stuff. That's the only thing that's still up there. Bethlehem Steel is gone, General Motors is gone, Kodak is gone, Xerox is gone, Ritter Fodler has shrunk. All these huge employers that kept upstate busy and were located on the canal.
Okay.
Right? The canal died when the St. Lawrence Seaway was built and opened. The fracking sites are right on the southern tier. So you go across the border into Pennsylvania where fracking is not only allowed but encouraged, and you will see new schools, new hospitals, new roads. Wow. Right? And new housing. You come across the border into New York State and you see the same crap that's been in the southern tier for 40 years, which with the exception of Corning is nothing. There's nothing there. People leave there in droves. So he put his arm around the state health commissioner and said, that's good enough for me. Wow, even California, the land of the largest fruits and nuts that ever to grace this North American continent, even California allows fracking. Strict rules.
But that's okay.
But I agree, that's perfectly okay. And the EPA did study after study after study that said there is no evidence that fracking contaminates the waters, blah, 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 with the exception of a little spot around somewhere in Oklahoma where the injection of the water actually caused some separation of the earth and some minor earthquakes. They stopped it. They stopped the fracking there. But other than that, you'd know about it. It'd be posted in every headline across the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune.
Because everyone's watching.
Of course they're watching. So, where's the data? Governor, where's the data? You have people who are leaving the state. You have people who don't have jobs. You have a horrifically underdeveloped southern tier. I got it. We're going to put a casino in there. We're going to allow the Indian reservations to run casinos. Wow, that's the answer. So instead of putting 50,000 people to work at fracking sites and delivering the materials and maintaining the pipelines and doing all that stuff, you're going to have 100 casino workers. Wow, that's really great. And then take the money out of the hands of the people who you should be putting the money into the hands of. That to me was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back, right? I like that. I like the 2.5% cap on property tax. I thought that was a sensible thing to do. And even though everybody whined about it, it was a sensible thing to do. But once he did that thing on the fracking, it was like, you're out to lunch, pal. And he continues to come up with theologically correct left-wing ideas. If you're the left-wing religion, you say, oh, what are the important things for me? Well, the important things are, let's not have any plastic bags. Okay, let's make New York a sanctuary state. Let's raise the taxes on the rich. They're even talking about a single-payer healthcare system. Oh, they have no idea
what just the state?
For the state. Just a catastrophe. There won't be enough money anywhere in the state. They'll be taking everybody's money and throwing it into a toilet and flushing it into this ridiculous idea. The congestion tax on Manhattan. I mean, if you think about, I said this to you last time we were on TV. Manhattan, the government, are the ones that made it more congested than it had to be. Why is that? Because they took 5 lanes on Broadway and narrowed it to 2 lanes so they could have a bicycle lane. How many bicycles are there? And then rent bicycles, city bike, right? And we have a bicycle lane, and then we have a bus lane, and then we have another pedestrian lane, and then we have a cement divider, and then we have 2 lanes of traffic. You want to know why it's congested? Because you narrowed it to the point where it's unlivable, and then you added rights for 60,000 Uber and Lyft drivers. 60,000 more people driving taxis, not all on the road at once, but there were only 15,000 medallions. Now you say 25% of those people are on the road. It was another 15,000 taxi cabs.
Well,
That's
it's
where
a
the
mess.
congestion comes from. And now
Right.
you're going to tax us? Really? And you can tax us because you just discovered the subways are a disgusting mess?
And you were responsible for them.
That's exactly right. He was governor for 9 years, and then he said, well, the subways are a mess. Where have you been for the last 8 years? They've been a mess since 1975.
And now they're getting worse with the homeless situation.
So the guy he's a left-wing preacher, but there's no you need data. If you want to make good policy decisions, you need thoughtfulness, you need discussion, and you need that to revolve around data. You wind up with policy choices. Policy choices jump out of the data. But that's not the way he works. He reads from his own little left-wing Bible, a little red book from Mao, right? He reads from the little red book and said, this is what we need to do. And that is an upside-down way to govern in North America,
Right.
Even in the Northeast, where people are mostly of his political persuasion.
Right.
You're still responsible for doing the right thing, not for reading from some little Bible and pronouncing, well, that's good enough for me, Mr. Commissioner.
Well, and not for just talking about, well, everyone has a right to this or a right to that, because then, who gave them the right?
You did.
I did?
Well,
I don't think so.
anyway, I'm done talking about that guy.
Yeah, okay.
But I do think he's sitting and waiting for the Democrat Party to come to him.
Well, that is really very clever. Because you're right, the 23 people are just going to tear each other
Absolutely.
to shreds.
Absolutely. Joe Biden has fallen apart already. And Bernie Sanders is ineluctably unelectable. Right?
Well, it should be interesting, and the nice thing is we had to witness the Republicans tearing each other apart,
Look what
4 years ago.
Yes, we got Donnie Trump.
So it'll be very interesting to see the other party tearing each other apart.
I said this to somebody, it was on the radio, and then somebody called in and said, don't you think the nation is sick of New Yorkers? Hillary, Trump, Cuomo to be, maybe.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I guess that's right. I think the nation probably is sick.
Well, they probably should go south, get some totally different orientation. Well, we only have a couple of minutes left, and I know there was something you were really excited about, a scientific article.
Well, this had to do with Cuomo and the paper. Cuomo,
Oh,
paper
okay.
bags aren't a fate worse than death. This is after he's pushed through the legislature this idea that you can't have plastic bags at grocery stores. So there is a bunch of data floating around. One of the bits of data is from this, what's the name of this organization? Ocean Conservancy's International Coastal Cleanup. Plastic grocery bags are half of, well, no, actually a quarter of.
Right, this is what people picked up when they were on the beaches.
All over the world.
Okay, so this was a cleanup,
There's a cleanup.
and this is what the people found.
Yeah, well, I didn't have a lot of time, but yeah. Cigarette butts, food wrappers, plastic beverage bottles on which there's a 5-cent deposit. Doesn't matter, people throw them away. Plastic bottle caps, and then plastic grocery bags. So what's this, fifth? 750,000 tons.
How many cigarette butts?
2.5 million tons of cigarette, little teeny things. That's a lot of
Yeah,
cigarette
it's a
butts.
lot of picking
Anyway.
up them.
There's the data, and here's more data. Governor, I know this will be a surprise to you if you're listening. There is a plastic discovery that has been made, which could be the manufacturing material for all plastics, polydiketoenamine, developed at Berkeley, University of California at Berkeley. And it is a plastic that is not ground up into recycling bits. It is a plastic that you put into a vat and the molecules dissolve and go off, become monomers, and the monomers can be reformulated into the same plastic or different plastic. It would be like taking 10 pounds of plastic, putting it in the vat, and getting 10 pounds of raw carbon and hydrogen atoms that you could then reformulate into another plastic or the same plastic, but pound for pound, in a relatively simple process. And the headline was, this is, $2.5 trillion holy grail found, ? Breakthrough discovery could lead to 100% recyclable plastics, scientists say. This is the thing that's coming. Plastic bags, whatever plastic it is, will be neither created nor destroyed. It will be preserved, right? like all the energy or matter, whatever Einstein's law was. So the point of this comment is he didn't have the data on what's the real problem. And I don't know what data he had, if any, about any of the beaches in New York State. Forget about the rest of the world. But what nobody was paying attention to was that science has moved forward as it did in the 60s when everybody said, oh, there's not going to be enough food for people to eat. The planet is reproducing so quickly that people will be starving to death. And the scientists came up with ways to fix that, to make farmland more productive, to allow for genetic engineering, which allows for things to grow into areas where they couldn't grow before. Same thing here. And here's the science, here's the data. Where are you, Governor? Where's your policy people? Why aren't people thinking about things instead of just pronouncing from the Little Red Book? My last comment.
Well, and I hope you're going to have a really nice summer.
Poly, di, keto, and amine.
Excellent. I could never pronounce that. It is exciting what's coming along in science and how it can make a difference for things that people care about, like preserving the planet and all of that. So keep us up to date on the science, okay, and on the facts.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Anyway.
Well, thank you. No, that's very interesting. We want to thank the talent on the other side of the cameras. Thank you so much for all your help every time, every show. And
a happy 4th.
Yes.
Of July.
Enjoy.
Yeah, you too.
And I'll see you after.
To all of you out there.
Thank you.